Hello. It says I'm live. It says I'm live. It says I'm live, and I don't know how any of this works. Welcome. It was the program was suggesting that I use the skinny version. Me actually, I kind of like this version because it allows me more space, and my camera's like super close to me. So when I did that, I was like, hello. So we're gonna stay like this, and we're gonna do it this way. So I hope I'm streaming properly. I should be streaming on LinkedIn, YouTube, and Instagram. So I don't know how it's gonna work out so well on Instagram. I'm probably gonna look small. Whatever. I'll check it later. I can always go into my Instagram notification or my LinkedIn notification. Yes, it says I'm live right now, so that's awesome. So welcome to the Cough and Fart Show. No, I just feel like it's just no editing. You're gonna see and hear me the way I am, and I'm hoping I don't get feedback from the music. I could turn off the music. I want to make sure the music's not too loud. Turn off sound. I don't know how to turn off sound. Audio. Speakers. Okay. Just gonna leave it like that. Hopefully it's not too loud. I don't know if my air conditioner is too loud. Maybe I'll shut it off for comparison's sake. And we'll get into this. So I don't know who's here. I don't know how it tells me. How do I know people show up to a live? No clue. I am absolutely not an expert in this. Let's see, I'll go to my live show on the LinkedIn. I'll leave it like that. Anyway, can't hear myself. If I turn it up, I'm scared there's going to be some weird feedback. So, what are we doing here? Ask your questions in the comments. I should see the comments from the different platforms show up in my feed, and keep them nice, keep them friendly. We're gonna talk HR today. Sorry, I got a cough now and again. I do have a button here where I can turn off the sound. I just wanted to go over some of my notes right now. Why should you even listen to me? I spent the first part of my career working for organizations and not getting anywhere. I had a series of bad bosses, and I actually ended up quitting one job because my back went out, and I ended up quitting on my boss because he kept phoning me. Can you come into work? Can you come into work? All I could do was lay down. I couldn't do anything else. I couldn't walk. I couldn't sit. Couldn't stand. And it was just terrible pain. I was in terrible pain. And he got combative on the phone and was trying to get me excited, get me riled up. He's like, you should be mad. And I'm like, no. I'm sorry. I'm going to stop talking to you now. I quit. Do not phone me back. And it was not fun. Well, I ended up finding out as I was searching for new work about a month, 2 months later, I got a call from the regional trainer of this company, the lady who had originally trained me. And she called up and she said, "Hey, would you like to come back to work? We fired that manager." And I was like, holy smokes. Well, good. Turns out he was trying to manage 2 stores. He had staff from the other store get fired at the same time. So I was like, yeah. So I went back to work with them for, I think, another 6 months or something like that. And then I got a job with the federal government. And again, through the federal government, I didn't enjoy the work environment at all. It was a union environment, but still, it just felt oppressive. And every little thing you did wrong turned into just this big thing, right? So I toughed it out there at the federal government for 5 years. I toughed it out there because it was right at the start of that experience that I decided I'm changing careers. I'm going into HR. I was 30 years old and I was going back to university to get my HR degree, my management degree in human resources and labor relations. So that was a big changing point in my life. And I started moving into HR, started doing more HR things. I'm very grateful for a friend of mine who brought me on as his HR person. And I think it was just over 3 years there with him. And we kind of butted heads a little bit and we went our ways. We parted ways. But I'm very grateful to him for offering me that role and giving me that initial HR experience. It was very, very valuable to me and has really molded my career and the things I do moving forward now. And it turned out, as I started down my Indigenous journey in my life, it turns out I realized my history was marred in racist situations. I had situations where I went to a job interview for a well-known liquor company, for an assistant manager at a store, and I didn't get a call back after the interview, the in-person interview. During the interview, they actually asked me if I wrote my own resume. And at the time, I thought, oh, yeah, absolutely. And I do. I'm a pretty smart guy. I'd written my own resume, and they didn't call me back. Maybe they didn't believe me. I don't know, just because I was Indigenous. But I don't even remember if I got a message saying, sorry, we're not going with you. I don't remember getting the regrets, but maybe I just don't remember. But my last name, Hopfe, it's a German sounding last name. And it's, I think it gets me in the door. I get a little bit of white privilege from my German last name, which I got from my dad. And, when I was growing up, I think that all that white privilege kind of came onto me. And I was described, when I was in my 20s, I was described as being on my high horse, right? And I didn't understand. And now, in the future, as I started that journey of realizing who I am, that I really am Indigenous, and I do present Indigenous, that all these times in my history were just racism. And I'm like, oh my God. when I started this journey, I completely broke down. I did one of those, what are they called? Walk of privilege. So take a step forward if you've never been in this situation. Step forward, So they ask all these questions, and they're kind of, people in the EDI realm are kind of telling you not to do these anymore because they're kind of jarring. It really shocked me to my core when I did this. It was, I just broke down. I didn't, there was only one person further back than me, and that was an older Indigenous gentleman. All our white managers in the organization and all the white staff were all way farther. They were almost at the wall, the other side of the room, and I'd only moved forward 3 steps. This just killed me, just right to the core. I ended up being somebody different, and I've been kind of on this journey realizing, yeah, there's a lot of privilege I have, but it's not really mine. It's like a false privilege. So that's kind of what's shaping me and moving me forward in this career that I want and building my business. I want to bring that knowledge and the pain I've experienced into organizations so we can build a great organization, so we can make people happy, so we can make the clients happy. Because I strongly believe happy employees means happy clients. And that's kind of where I'm at. That's me. That's all me. So it says one person is watching right now, but I can see it's me watching it, or someone's watching it from YouTube or something. I don't know. Let me have a look. It's all interesting to me. Yeah, YouTube says I'm live, so that's awesome. I don't know if anyone's watching on LinkedIn, or not LinkedIn, Instagram or not. It says one person is watching. So yay! Welcome to the show. That's a win. It's probably just me because I logged in and I looked at the live. So probably just me. Anyway. Comment if you think the volumes on this background music is too high or not. I will be getting a pop filter for my microphone. See, I got one of these cool Yetis here. And I think I usually sound pretty good. I tend to talk loud. So I hope that works out. I hope I sound good. And I will be getting better lighting, because right now I got that window open, but the sun's coming around the house and I'm going to have to close it. And all I got is this overhead light, and it's going to make me look terrible. Anyway, going on to some HR topics. I really want people to ask me questions. I would rather answer questions than just ramble on about nothing or everything. But that was kind of me in a nutshell, what I'm all about, and my philosophy for being in HR. And the one big thing that I've come up with is a 4-step process to fix toxic workplaces. And I would like to talk about that a little bit. I'm going to talk about that a little bit. I'm going to try to keep track, see if anyone posts anything. Oh, no, not that one. I want to leave that on. Yeah. Make sure you ask your questions in the comments. I'll try to get to them as soon as I can. Okay. Where am I looking? Oh, I'm looking over here at a different document. So, sorry. Cough show, like I said. My 4-phase process. I want to talk about this. You can do it. You don't have to have me do it. You don't have to hire me to do it. Anybody can do this. It's just helpful if you've got some HR skills, especially if you don't have any HR support and you don't have any HR experience. There's something on my lenses, sorry. So the 4-phase process. The first phase is just investigate. Because you might think you know what is wrong with your organization, and I might have a pretty good clue of what's going on in your organization. But I don't like to just say, do this and it'll fix everything. No, we need to investigate and confirm what's wrong with your organization. So once we get that data and feedback, then we can actually start moving forward. So the first step, investigation phase. I do an employee engagement survey. And there's lots of information on this, on what you can do. I like basically using the questions from the, oh my God, I always forget the name. The Q12 questions. I don't know. They're scientifically researched 12. Actually, there's 13. There's a 0 question now, I think. But you can come up with any questions you want, really. But try to make sure that all your employees are answering the same survey with the same questions, because we need to compare the apples to apples, not the apples to oranges. So if you're asking a job specific question, it's hard for that to relate to other positions and other jobs in your organization. So just try to keep them, I don't want to say general, but answerable by everybody. So sorry again. I'll take a drink. So when we think about that employee engagement survey, it's got to be anonymous. You got to make it anonymous. There's just, and I think that's where a third party, if you hire anybody to do it, to compile the answers for you, that's great. Doesn't have to be an HR professional. It's better if it is, really. But these surveys aren't coming back to you as the owner, as the manager, as general manager, whatever position you might be in. The raw data isn't going back to you. You should only see the results, the general results, the graphs, the pie charts, whatever that person is doing to get that data to you. And this is to make it anonymous so that your employees aren't scared to tell the truth. And a lot of times, if your organization is bad or there's not a lot of trust, there's a history of mistrust, then they're not going to answer these questions, the survey, correctly the first time. And to help resolve this, in phase 4, we address this again. And that's to see if we've moved anything, or maybe people have become more open and honest. Anyway, the other part of phase 2 is the management review survey. This, oh my God, this is a scary thing to do. Reviewing management reviewing you as a manager, as the owner. This is a scary thought. We don't want to hear that feedback, because we all think we are doing amazing at running our business. I, in fact, am doing a terrible job at running my business, but that's where I'm starting to do these lives. I'm posting more often. This is the marketing side of my business that I've got to do. I didn't realize when I started my business, my consultancy, is that 98% of the time I'm just a marketer, and I got to find money for advertising on top of that. So it's hard to get that in your head. But those management surveys can be so valuable, because they're going to tell you exactly what's going on, what the employees think about you. Again, this is, as long as they trust you, they're going to tell you the truth. So this first round of surveys, it'll give us some information, but it's not going to give us the total truth. And the management survey is for all managers in the organization. Anyone who supervises a person, this is who should be reviewed. If you're a smaller organization, all the employees just review all the managers. Because if you have a certain manager, say Wendy manager, Wendy gives this to her one employee that she supervises, obviously she's going to know who's saying that. And she might have two people working under her. So again, she'll be able to figure out all these surveys, trying to be as anonymous as possible. Black or blue ink, not the purple ink that the receptionist uses for fun notes, right? Black or blue, you can identify them. And that's why you got to have this third party person reviewing them, whether it's an HR person or someone you can trust not to overshare with you. The point here is that you need to be anonymous, and you may be able to identify someone's handwriting and things like that. So keeping the surveys multiple choice, they just circle the answer. This is going to keep you from being able to identify someone's handwriting. And these are all important. And it's not... No manager should be offended by having it set up this way, because a good manager needs real responses, real proof, real data to help them grow. If your managers aren't growing, then your organization is going to have a tough time also. I think about sales teams. So you'll have a group of, 10 salespeople, and they need a manager. That many people, they need some sort of supervisor or sales manager that they work with. The idea of using the term manager is basically indicating a complete change of role. You no longer do the job. A sales manager should not be on the call all day trying to make sales. They should be supporting the sales team through The human resources function as a supervisor, so training and onboarding new salespeople, things like that. They shouldn't be still grinding it out, trying to make a sales quota. That's not what the manager is for. The manager there the role has changed. Yes, having sales experience in this role will help. Yes, you should have a salesperson or someone with a history of sales in this role because they need to train the salespeople. Now, imagine you just promoted your best salesperson. Well, what's going to happen? Immediately, your revenue is going to go down. Immediately, your sales are going to go down. This is because you no longer have your best salesperson working the floor because you promoted them. Salespeople, they're motivated by money. So you're not paying them correctly. They're gonna want that promotion to sales manager because the manager makes more money, or at least as a base money. So they're looking for that more money. Salespeople, absolutely money motivated. So why don't you just pay your best salesman more? They may not actually want to be a manager, and they may not realize how their job is going to change. And if you move them, like I mentioned, you're going to start losing money. The idea is you have your best salesman. Now they move to sales manager. Now they're training everybody else, making them all better salesmen. That's the theory. Well, that's not always how it works. That's mostly how it doesn't work. You should be keeping your best salesmen selling. And what do you do that? How do you make them happy? You give them the better base pay. You give them a better commission pay. You give them all these better one-time bonuses and things like that, right? You want to keep that good salesman in the sales role. And instead of them dreaming about, oh, I want to make more money. I know the sales manager makes $200,000 a year, so I want to do that. Well, how about you just pay them a little bit more? Your organization sales aren't going to go down, and there isn't going to be this sudden loss of money and as you're building the money back. When you think about promoting somebody, you always got to think about what work they're leaving. Are they really good at that? And are they really good at that position that you're promoting them to? You don't know. They might have some history of being in a manager position, but you don't know what kind of manager they were if they weren't already a manager in your organization. So you have to train your potential managers. So anyone who's being promoted or is being considered for promotion or has indicated they want to get promoted, they need to be trained before they get promoted. So they need to spend some time with management training. And whatever your organization is, whatever you do, you got to get creative and figure out what that management training is. Could be something simple. It could be something more elaborate, like sending them to some paid 6-week course on management and leadership, right? So the idea is that a manager should already be trained as a manager into that role. And once you get higher up in the organization, so I got the person doing the job, I got the person who's managing that group of people doing the job, you go up to the manager's manager, the director, they don't need to know anything about what the actual job is. Something always in my throat. The idea is that the higher up in the management structure you go is, you don't need to know what the organization, what the actual day-to-day, boots on the ground, client-facing, customer-facing role is, because the manager starts analyzing these numbers, and they're moving, they're working more on the HR things, the disciplinary, the training, and even higher up, right? They're dealing with budgets and things like that, and they're just giving direction. Hey, Mr. Manager, you need to do this for your team because your team needs to get better. And then the manager says, how do I make my team better? Oh, I give them more training, or I got to hire another person, whatever. So you have these survey. We're going back to the survey because we're still in the investigation. This is phase 1 of my 4-phase process for fixing toxic workplace. And we're using the data from this employee engagement survey and the management review survey. And now we're reviewing this. We're reviewing the results of that. And then you want to review everything else in your organization at the same time. This is basically a document review, a policy review, because we're looking at the vision, we're looking at the mission, we're looking at the values, and we're reviewing all of that. Because what your organization is doing needs to be reflected in all these things. Because if you're a manager, or you're the owner, top level, you need to be able to say, this is our vision and this is our mission. So this is what we want to do. This is how we're going to do it with the mission. And the values is what's keeping us in check. So you always need to be thinking about that, whether you're instructing a new employee or onboarding an employee, or you're the CEO directing your organization. You need to be following these. These need to be ingrained in everybody's psyche, especially through management. And you're going to look at your strategic plan, and this should be related to your vision, mission, and values. And your strategic plan is your overall plan. This is your 1-year plan. This is your 5-year plan. This is your 100-year plan. Depending on your organization, you may have some really big, long plans. Let's check to see if anyone's chatting or whatnot. Well, no, of course not. Sorry. I didn't mute. So the strategic plan, you need to review it. Along with that comes the operations plan. The operations plan is more specific. In order for us to hit the strategic goal, this is the operation, this is the process we need to get it done, right? We need to expand our market into some new province or state or whatever. Okay, well, that means, operationally speaking, we need to build another factory, we need to buy another machine, we need to hire more staff. This is what goes into the operations. It's really the nuts and bolts of what you're doing. And we also want to do an organizational structure review. Because, if you've got 500 managers and you only have 150 employees, well, you're a little top heavy. In HR speak, each supervisor or manager should be looking after about 8 to 10 people. So So you look at your organizational structure. If we go back to the sales team, 8 to 10 salespeople, and there's a supervisor or a sales manager. Then the sales director wouldn't have more than 8 to 10 sales teams that they're looking after. But that could be up to 100 people. But they're only dealing with the sales supervisors or the sales managers. So there's 8 to 10 of them. And then that sales manager is part of the regional team or a group of managers from all the different departments within the organization, and they all come together, and there's 5 to 10 of them: HR, finance, sales, production, supply chain, whatever your organization might be structured. All these come together, and then this might be a regional director, or this might be someone higher up. It might be the owner, it might be the general manager, but they're only dealing with a small group also. And if you're ever in a situation where you've got supervisors supervising more than 10 people, then something's got to change. You got to break up these teams, get more managers, or if you're in a situation where you've got a supervisor or manager only supervising 1 or 2 people, then do you really need that role at this point? Could we get rid of that role? There's a lot of options to think about as you build your organization. So doing this 4-step process, I'm able to look at and say, oh, you're deficient in marketing, you're deficient in HR, you're deficient in sales, you got way too many people in production or whatever, right? Like, so having that structure review as part of phase 2 is very important. And then we get down to the more nitty-gritty. We're going to do an HR policy or an HR handbook review. And that could take some time. I know some organizations have like a 500-page employee handbook. That's insane. There's no reason for it to be that. If you have more than about 20 pages, there's too much. You give this employee handbook to all new employees when they get hired, and you send out the occasional message saying, hey, we've updated the employee handbook, please review. No one reviews it. Nobody reads this giant document until there's a problem. And in most cases, then it's too late. The knowledge in that handbook could have prevented the problem. But nobody's going to look at it if it's a giant document. They're going to look at a few pages, but they're never going to sit down and read the 500-page document just for rules on how they should work within the organization. There is a lot of stuff that you could just say, we follow provincial or government legislation for this rule. Please see that. I heard a story when I was taking my degree. The new CEO of Deloitte, I can't remember her name. I don't know if she's still there. But our instructor had told us about how there was just this massive dress code policy. Massive dress code policy. Everything about how you dress, things like that. And she said, this is too long. This is too crazy. So she changed it to dress appropriately. And I guess there was the group of lawyers within their organizations. They got a little flustered. The manager for that department was like, oh no, but we go to court and we got to be in court some days and things like that. I don't know if it was their lawyer department, but it was some department that spends time at the courthouse. And it turned into this big thing. This manager didn't know what to do. And the CEO said, well, just keep a spare suit at the office and they can change into the suit before they go to the courthouse. Well, when they came back to the office, they can get back into their jeans and t-shirt. Right? And it was kind of a simple solve. But when you have a large organization that is used to just a ton of rules, we all get in that mindset. I'm not following the rules. Oh my God, I'm not following the rules. What do I do in this situation, right? So that's almost done on phase 2. The last item in the phase 2 when you're trying to fix a toxic workplace is you review your pay grid. If you don't have a pay grid, you need a pay grid. And that's, kind of for 2 reasons. One, you can use the pay grid to advertise your jobs. And I really feel you should put down the grid, the what their possible wage could be. And it's in between there that you offer based on their experience and education and stuff like that, right? But they know they're getting a certain possible range of money. And that is so important because you'll end up getting candidates that wouldn't have applied if they had known the salary or the wage, because they want more, right? And you may also get people that are inexperienced realizing, oh, well, that might be a more experienced role, so I shouldn't apply. So you kind of weed people out, candidates out right away. This job pays between 75 and 100 grand a year. Well, you have some super experienced, 20 years, master's, doctorate. They're not going to apply for that. They're not wasting their time. And thank God they're not wasting your time. If you're just trying to get more people in the line in your interviews, you're wasting everybody's time. You need to have a set pay grid and you need to advertise it, or else you're just wasting everybody's time. And that's oh my God, it's just a waste. You're trying to be efficient. You're trying to save money wherever you can. And a simple little thing like indicating your wage is going to help. It's going to speed things up. It's going to get the right candidate for the wage. It isn't going to get the best candidate who's money motivated. But that might not be somebody you want in your organization, right? If you have a no pay range, or you say you make anywhere from $60,000 to $200,000 a year, I mean, that's insane. That's a giant pay range, and you don't want to do that because everybody's going to try to ask for $200,000. Well, in most cases, you can't afford that, right? It's a terrible way to try to get the best person. You don't always need the best person because they might be motivated, and it might not be somebody you want in the organization. But you should have a pay grid, because now you can go back and you can review everybody in your organization, make sure everyone's being paid correctly within that budget. If someone's not being paid, if they're being paid below that budget, you immediately bring them up, and you pay them in that range based on their actual experience. You bring them up, they're going to be so happy. You're going to build so much trust. This person is suddenly going to go from just an okay employee to a good employee, maybe a great employee, which you might call a rock star. But you've gained trust and loyalty. This person may stay with you forever instead of trying to look for a new job in a year or two. Right? Being able to put them up, bring them up, it brings up the whole organization. And that's great. And on the flip side, you may be able to look at some inequalities. Maybe you hired someone and you're paying them way too much. Well, at this point, you let them know you're not really going to be qualified for another raise. Or the only raise they might get is a cost of living increase. 2 to 3% every 6 months to a year, right? They won't get any merit increases. And that's good too. Because if someone is overpriced for your organization on where you're at and what you're doing right now, then you shouldn't have them there. You have to really justify overpaying somebody. There is just a crazy amount of evidence and proof and results that you need to justify paying someone over your pay grid. And that's because you don't want to be alienating everyone else. But if everyone else finds out that this person is making, 50 grand more than everyone else who does the same job, everyone in that department or everyone doing the exact same job has got to feel it. They've got to know, oh my God, David, he's helped me repeatedly. He's helped train me. He stays late. He's taken over clients while I was on vacation. I hear he works some weekends. Every quarter, he's the top person in that area, right? That sort of person, as long as you're acknowledging that they are the backbone of the organization, people still will. But it'll be harder for somebody to say, why is David getting paid more? Right? You've got to show the proof. You've got to give the accolades that David is the rock star and David deserves that extra pay. But in most cases, you're probably not going to have that rock star. Or you're going to have to tell them you don't get any more raises till everybody catches up to you. So this could be a good thing. Suddenly your costs will disappear. If David leaves the organization, that's fine. Now you find someone who's cheaper. I mean, it's sad to see someone go, and it's sad to think that we're kind of nonchalant. Okay, bye, David. But that's the truth. The inside budget of your organization is as vital as making the sales or getting the new clients, bringing in the revenue. So you just got to depend on that pay grid. And at this point, we review it or we make suggestions in this review phase 2 of how to fix a toxic workplace. And that ends phase 2. Now I'd be doing the analysis phase. It's kind of a continuation of phase 2. Analysis phase 3. I'm analyzing the reports. I'm creating a rescue plan, because this is the point where I'm coming back to you as an owner or a manager, and I'm saying, here's a plan. You need to do these 3 things right now. You need to do these 4 things over the next month. You need to do these 5 things over the next quarter. And they will go with the flow of the organization, the mission, the vision, the values, and things like this, right? And trying to get this report together, for me, usually takes a couple weeks. So we're already losing some time there. But now we start the process as you get the report and it's like, oh my God, there's all these things we got to do. I would suggest monthly coaching calls with your HR person or whoever you need to help support these changes, to keep everybody on track. Because this is the hard part. This is where you're actually doing things. You're actually trying to change your organization. And it's the little things that matter, but you got to do 10,000 of them. And you've got to not rescind these changes. If you make a change and you leave it for 30 days, that's nowhere near long enough for your organization to get used to that change and to prove that it works. Changes like this take months or years to change things, because the trust is built. If I'm a disgruntled employee and there's a change that's being made, first thing I'm thinking is, yeah, right. We'll see. They won't change. This is within a couple weeks or a couple months, they'll change it back, right? Your employees are already thinking that. So you need to prove them wrong. And this takes time. So if you can get through all these changes that might be recommended in the analysis phase, then we move on to the follow-up phase. The analysis phase might take longer, and implementing these changes might take longer. So I'm kind of recommending 6 months to move on to phase 4, the follow-up, but it might be a year. Might also be never if you feel like you haven't made enough changes. But you need a follow-up to gauge the changes. Now, I'd mentioned earlier about the employee engagement survey and the management review surveys. These are important and vital at this point, because you want to see if the changes you've made have moved the needle at all, to see if you're going in the right direction. Big caveat here. If your organization was really, really bad, a large number of people might not have told the truth in their initial surveys. They were fearful of retaliation. They didn't want their manager to find out what they actually said and things like that. So they weren't being truthful in the initial surveys. And this might be a good thing. It might be a shock. The results might be worse because now everybody's telling the truth. You've gained their trust and their loyalty and their honesty. So they might be at this point, because you've made changes and opened up the safe space of the organization, then they're going to tell you the truth now. So don't be shocked as if phase 4, the follow-up, the numbers are worse, because now they're telling the truth. So whether they're worse or whether there's some areas that looks improved, you now know where to go next. Because now you're going to create another plan. Right, we worked on these 6 things over the last 6 months. Now we're going to work on these other 6 things. Or we're going to continue working on these 3 and 3 more things. And you try to keep it simple. You don't want to do 10,000 changes a month or every 6 months. You got to keep them low, less than 10. Because this is a lot of extra work for you and your managers. This is a lot of extra work. And it might burn people out if you're trying to say, oh, you got 10,000 changes in your department. You better have them done by next week. Right? That's just insane. No, it is 6 things over the next 6 months that you need to change in your department. And we're all working together to make these changes, to implement them properly. Chat. Just checking to see if anybody's actually... I was going to say living the dream. But just to see if there's people watching. You know what? Make a comment and tell me if you're watching. Oh my. So I looked up I opened up my screen in YouTube to see if anyone's gonna... I just don't know how to tell if people are watching or not, so I'm just keeping an eye on everything. Sorry if it's taking long, and I don't know if people are watching on Instagram or not. And honestly, I'm not expecting 10,000 people to join up to this live event the first time I do one. No way. That's not what I was expecting. So I just finished going over my 4-phase process. And this is something I do for organizations, and it's good for small organizations, good for big organizations. But this 4-phase process is kind of vital because it's rooted in the data. We might think, oh, this is what I need to change in my organization, everything's going to be all right. But it might not be, and you might be completely off base. You don't know. You don't have a clue what you really need to fix. And I think about the old... I guess it's not an old saying, it's my saying. You, as a small business owner, are an expert in what you do. So, if you're a widget company making widgets, you started out in your in your garage or your own small machine shop, and you were making widgets. You are an expert at making widgets. You got some big sales, some big international customers. Now you're making, 50,000 widgets a day, and you need 300 people, and you need a massive plant, factory, 50 different machines, and now you're not even a plant manager anymore, and you're certainly not running the machine, building the widget. That's not you anymore. You're now in the boardroom at the corporate office dealing as a manager. Did making widgets train you to be a manager or a CEO of a medium to large business? A little bit, but not a lot. As your organization grows, all people need to start relying on people management. And it's so hard for me to say this, because as an expert in your industry, you know your industry, you know your product, you know your service, you're an expert at that. But you might not be an expert in people. I am an introvert, and I have hard times at big meetings. If I'm hired to give a keynote address, and I can stand up in front of 500 people and do a presentation, no problem. But get me off the stage and starting to mingle one-on-one with people, that's my kryptonite. But as an HR person, I'm learning how to market my small business. So as a widget maker, you had to learn how to start marketing your business. Then you had to hire people to help you run your business, making widgets. Then you're hiring managers to help manage the widget makers. There is going to be some learning, but it might not be the right learning. Your whole organization might be just stalled, plateauing, because you didn't put the right people in the right places. Like the sales analogy, you took your best widget maker and you made them the widget supervisor on the factory floor. But production goes down. Maybe quality goes down. Because now this person doesn't know how to manage or doesn't know how to train the new widget makers that you got to hire to replace them. And then you're thinking, I'm going to move that guy up to another level up in the management structure, the hierarchy. And suddenly you're like, why is this guy stinking it up? Why isn't he's an expert widget maker. He should be able to manage these people. It's because you never gave him management training. It's a completely different job. You could bring in someone who knows nothing about widgets, and they would do a better job at a high-level management position than your widget maker that you didn't train properly. What's that called? Failing upwards. He's never going to be the star manager. They're never going to become CEO of the company when you retire. This person is going to get stuck at middle management, never growing, never learning new things. So Get that management training. And I know some organizations, they try to get extra hours out of people for doing the work. They want the employees to answer client emails in the evening. They want employees to come in on weekends. They want employees to do all kinds of extra work without extra pay. So they try to give them the title of manager. This is a big no-no. You don't give someone a manager title unless they are managing people. They're not managing something or some task. Use, senior widget maker. The senior widget maker's new job is to be the first person to get called on weekends when the machine goes down for the weekend shift, or they get called at midnight when the midnight shift needs help. They still get paid hourly, so when they come back into the plant, they're clocking in just like they normally do, but they're the senior. They're fixing the problem. They're dealing with the issues. But as soon as you say manager, the widget manager, this person isn't coming in to build widgets on the weekend. This person isn't staying late to build widgets. This person is staying late to deal with management issues. Widget maker Tom had an issue. He didn't get along with Jessica, who worked on the machine next to him. There's a clash. Now, Tom, the manager, and Jessica had a meeting at the end of the day that took them overtime, and now the manager has to sit down, do his reports on what's going on. Maybe the manager is reprimanding one of them, or maybe he's recommending that they both get some training. It takes him 2 hours to get this done. He's managing people. He's not in there fixing a machine or building extra widgets. That's not the role of a manager. The manager manages the people. And I don't know, I feel like I can't stress this one enough. You want to use non-management titles for certain people. If you have, I think of the title coordinator. Coordinator is a good title. They are coordinating stuff. They're not dealing with people issues, but they're coordinating stuff. They've got different tasks. They're dealing with different departments. They're kind of the hub of whatever they're doing, whatever they're coordinating. So you would call them a coordinator role. Let's go with, they are the document coordinator, right? They get all the copies from all the different departments, and they're making sure that different department gets the right copies. Every department that needs a certain thing gets their thing. They're the document coordinator. They aren't the document manager. Don't call the document coordinator the document manager. Yes, they are managing documents, but really they're coordinating the documents, and the document manager has 8 to 10 document coordinators working for them. The document manager doesn't manage the documents. The document manager manages the document coordinators. It's giving them the high-level support, addressing issues, that might come up with the whole process as a whole. They're not coordinating documents. They're not part of the process anymore. They're dealing with the people and improving the process. They're not working in the process. There's a difference. So avoid using the word manager unless that person is managing people. Oh my God, I probably bored you to death with that. I ramble, and that's good if I'm dealing with something great. Otherwise, anyway, I'm excited about HR. I'm really excited about these sorts of things, and I could talk for hours about them. But I would prefer if people would ask me questions. So, ask me questions. Put it in the comments wherever you are, and I'll see if I can see the comments in the chats. I don't know. I don't see any there. I don't see any here. And that's fine. And I'm hoping everything will come into my program I'm using. What's it called? Restream.io is the program. Sorry. I lost my train of thought. That's fine. This is the problem with live. Maybe it'll get better. Maybe it'll get worse. Maybe I'll be a big failure. But I did write a post recently about dealing with chronically late employees. So we moved on to chronically late employees. We just finished talking about my 4-phase process for fixing toxic workplaces. But I want to talk about chronically late employees. This seems to be a pretty big theme. And there's things happening in the world that are making this worse, and there's things happening in the world that have always made this worse. And we're not dealing with ourselves. People might be late because of commutes. People might be late because of personal commitments, whether first thing this morning or over to lunchtime or late last night, and they were up late. And I have a hard time with lates. If your organization depends on someone being there, they open the storefront to let clients come in or something like that, right? It's hard to just say off the top of my head, but it has to be very much, it's almost like brick and mortar organizations where you have clients walking in or you have customers walking in. You need someone there on time. You absolutely need someone to arrive on time, to open the door, to greet the customers, to greet the clients. So you're going to make sure that your best employee, your most reliable employee, is in that role. For everyone else in the organization, or maybe you're an organization that doesn't have the brick and mortar must be open situation. Who cares? Who cares if people are late all the time? Who cares? Okay, I kind of got that out. But what you care about What I care about, what we all should be caring about, is whether or not the employee is getting the job done. Are tasks being done every day? Are projects getting done on time? Or better yet, ahead of time? If you have someone who gets all their work done, helps other employees to get their work done, and is always ahead on their project work, and you would consider them to be a rock star, who cares if they arrive 15 minutes, 20 minutes, an hour late every day? Who cares? I really don't care. Because they're getting the work done. The work is being done. The customers are happy. The clients are happy. The work is getting done. The organization is making money, creating that revenue so that you can put it in your bank account. Who cares if they're late? Now, you can turn around and say, you're only getting paid for the hours you work. But that puts people into a situation where they might, if you have a really great employee and they're getting their work done in 4 hours each day, the same amount of work that everyone else takes 8 hours to get done, well, you're paying them for nothing because they're sitting there doing nothing. So who cares if they're late? Who cares if you don't pay for an hour? But I like, we talked about pay grids earlier, you put everybody on salary instead of hourly wage. I think hourly wage is kind of a bit of a cop-out because the organization is they're trying to streamline the wages. And they want to suck every ounce of work out of every minute that someone works. And it's a little bit of a cop-out. If you got as many positions as possible, put them on salary. And if they arrive late, if they like to work late, if they're there at midnight, if they come in on the weekends, who cares? If it's not dependent on, let's open the door for the customers to come in, doesn't matter when they work. I mean, there might be safety issues that you got. You don't want someone working alone in a 500-person office, right? Like, there's certain safety things that have to be considered. Yes. But who cares? Who cares when they come in to do the work? Now, this is a kind of office work. Obviously, it's different for construction organizations. But you could still say, we expect you to do an 8-hour shift every day. This is your base wage. If you happen to do OT, then we give you a little bit extra money. We pay you some overtime, right? But then it's like, as long as the project gets done and nobody else gets slowed down. When you're in a construction type environment, yes, everything depends on the previous task getting done. So you got to watch it. So, but if you're moving into an office, and if it's an office where you're not dependent on the clients being there with open doors, that's what I mean. Your rock star should still be making sure they attend all the client meetings they might be booking and being responsible that way. But who cares if they came in late? I don't care. They got the job done. They had their meeting with the client. They got things done ahead of time, saving the organization thousands of dollars in penalties if our project took longer, right? So it's you do need some consistency and some accountability. because there's going to be a limit. I'm not saying you have no limit and there's no holds barred. There's a little bit. That comes back to where we talked about the size of your policy. If you got a 500-page policy book and talking about how someone should be operating, that's no good. But you need some definite rules. You need to get all your projects done on time, and if you get a certain percent of projects done ahead of time, you get a bonus. If you have a certain amount of projects that are always late, then consequences. Do we need to give you more training? What can we do to help you? And if the bad work continues, then it's time to let someone go. But you got to make sure you're documenting all this stuff to be as fair as possible, so they don't come back and sue your pants off. Right? But if someone's chronically late, find out what the root cause is. I mentioned a few things right at the start of this topic. Vehicles, traffic, transit is slow. They woke up late because they had personal issues last night. Right? Find out what the root cause is. Now, when you're hiring someone, you can't ask any of these questions. These are questions that you do not ask during the hiring process. But now that they're your employee, you can say, hey, Mark, you've been late 10 times this month. Is there something we can help you with? Can we accommodate you? And Mark might say, I drop my kids off at the daycare first thing in the morning, and sometimes it takes a while to get them going. Everybody understands. Parents have a tough job. And if you're an organization that doesn't care about your parents, or you don't care about children, you've got a lot of problems. Because the whole purpose of someone getting a job is to make money. That's the number one reason by far. Getting benefits is a distant second, because I need the money first to pay my rent, to pay my mortgage, to pay my car payment, to buy my bus pass, to put food on the table for my kids, to buy my kids clothing. I almost don't care about benefits if I got no job, or I need to make more money and I need a raise. People get jobs to make money. Period. So why treat them like criminals if they're coming in late? Let's find out that root cause. Because Mark, who's always coming in late because his children need to be taken to daycare, would have really appreciated if you allowed him to come in an hour later than everyone else, and he could stay an hour later after work, or maybe he could come in each weekend for 3-4 hours on Saturdays to make up time, right? Like, get creative. The more you can accommodate your employees for things like this, the more they're going to trust you, the more you're going to gain their loyalty. If you made this little accommodation for Mark, took a bunch of stress off him, stress of just rushing for his morning to get his morning done, or stress because he's thinking he's about to get fired. He's not doing his work properly. He's thinking, oh, I should get on Indeed and have a quick look to see if there's jobs, right? And he's wasting your time to look for his next job because he's scared he's going to get fired because of all this in his life. Now you accommodated him. Mark is going to stay with you for a very long time because he knows the accommodations for his children is there. He won't know if the next job will accommodate him. There's going to be that doubt. So Mark's going to stay. And in 5-10 years, when the children are older, Mark can move back to a regular schedule and still be a valuable employee. So it's so helpful to the employee. But we look at the flip side. It's another one of those situations where it's scary for the manager, for the business owner. It is scary. Sorry, I had a hiccup. But no, actually it was a burp. I lied. I don't know why I lied right there. It's scary to accommodate one employee because the manager, the owner is thinking, now all the employees are going to want some sort of accommodation. And then it's just spiraling downward mess. Nobody's going to be at work. Everybody's going to be late. Everyone's going to have strange schedules and things like that. No. You're still making reasonable accommodations. Mark needed half an hour, 45 minutes difference. He's still getting his work. He's still reporting into work. He's still getting his work done, his projects done. So what's wrong with accommodating a few more people? Right? Maybe Monica, she has a lot of clients that would like to have meetings in the evening or even on the weekend, so accommodate her. Let Monica come in at noon every day so she can have some evening appointments and maybe make up a few hours on each weekend. Right? You've accommodated so that she can do her job better because the clients are asking for it. Maybe Monica, well, let's say Allison. Allison has to pick up her kids from school every day at 3:15 or 3:30, whenever school gets out nowadays. So she has to leave the office by 2:30. I mean, is that a terrible thing? Well, she can start coming in at 6:30 or 7 o'clock and make up for that lost hour and a half, 2 hours at the end of the day. Maybe she doesn't come in early. Maybe she comes in every Saturday or every Sunday morning and puts in 3-4 hours. Right? That accommodation, it's going to make them so grateful. It's going to make them so loyal. And if every employee has some sort of accommodation, it's not the end of the world. Just keep track of it. And the minute someone is unable to get their job done properly, or there's been several incidents of where they couldn't get their job done properly because of these accommodations, that's where you start going back at them and saying, hey, look, instead of 2:30, could you leave at 3? And if the quality of work goes down, these are different issues. This isn't necessarily the lateness or the accommodations making them bad employees. They might be just bad employees, right? So chronically late employees, you've got to You got to find out what that root cause is. Have that conversation. Have that tough conversation. And that's a big thing with managers. You need to have the tough conversations. As soon as you see somebody struggling, you need to go have a conversation with them. Don't let it wait. Don't surprise them at their yearly employee evaluation. Don't surprise them 9 months after the incident to say, look, you had this incident 9 months ago, and I'm putting you on PIP, your performance improvement what's it? Plan. Right? Don't wait that. Now you've got a person who's on a PIP. They're nervous, they're angry, they're upset. It was something silly in their mind, and they're thinking, well, why didn't they just tell me? Why didn't they just correct me at the time? Right? You as the manager, that's what the management side of things is. Oh my God. Carl keeps doing this thing wrong over and over again. It's happened like 4 times this week. Go have a chat with Carl. Go say, hey man, you're doing this wrong. Do you need some extra training? What's going on? He may have just forgotten the process. Who knows? Maybe he wasn't given proper training, and that's on you. That's not on them. If someone doesn't get the proper onboarding or the proper training, how do you expect them to be a good employee? Right? They need the training. So being able to find that issue right away, correcting it right away. But you want to kind of use the, what's wrong? Do you need some help? If you don't improve, then this punishment is going to happen, right? You need to let them know what's going on. If you continue to have this problem over the next month, I'm going to have to write you up. And if it continues after that, I might have to let you go. How many step process you got there? You normally get three steps for the same issue, unless there's a lot of issues. You know, I think about breaking plates at a restaurant. I know here in Alberta, you can't charge your employee for breaking a plate. So they drop a plate. You can't charge them for that plate. You can't charge them. Maybe there was food on it that hadn't gone out to the customer yet. You can't charge them for that food. But you can say, look, Holly, you dropped a plate. That's okay. We got to make sure that this doesn't continue. So just be mindful about how you're holding the plates. Would you like to use a tray instead? How can I accommodate you? Maybe your grip's different on the plate. Can you show me how you hold that plate? And now you're working with Holly. Now she's getting some feedback. Maybe she's getting additional training from you now, right? Maybe she won't break any more plates. Maybe she'll continue to break plates. Holly, we had a conversation last week. You did seem to improve, but now this week you did break more plates. What can we do? Do you need any more support? Yes or no, you say, well, Holly, because we already addressed this once, I need to write you up. This is your first warning on breaking plates. Right? You're still not charging her for the plate. You can't charge her for the plate. And you shouldn't let someone go if they break their first plate or even their second plate. Now, if Holly broke a third plate or more plates within a short period of time, then we got to think about this. What's going on with Holly? There could be something else. Maybe Holly has been diagnosed with some disease that makes her muscles weak, or now she's starting to shake, some sort of neurodegenerative disease or something, maybe Holly's not a server anymore. Maybe Holly should be moved to bussing tables. Maybe Holly should be moved to the greeter position. Maybe Holly could be, I don't know in the restaurant. But if you can't move her into another position, or she's not interested in another position at this point, third time, Holly, I gotta let you go. I'm losing too many plates. You've cost me $200 in plates and $500 in food over this short period of time. By short period of time, it's usually a few weeks, maybe a month. That should be enough time to start correcting it and see some improvement. If Holly didn't break her second plate or her third plate over 6 months or a year, you're not going to continue the warning system. I gave you a warning a year and a half ago, Holly. This is your second warning. That's too long. That's too long. She went like 18 months and didn't break a plate. And now she broke another one? Oh, no. That's not a firing condition, right? You start that over again. All right, Holly. You broke a plate. Here's your first warning. Don't break any more plates. But you always want to give them time to learn and grow. Learning from our mistakes. Isn't that the only way you can grow and learn? Is making a mistake? It's a major way. You can take all the training and education you want. You're probably still going to make some sort of mistake as you start doing the work. It's going to happen. And you're going to be like, oh my God, that's why my professor told me not to do it this way. I get it now, right? That's the learning process. So, dealing with chronically late employees, it's a tough one. But I think if you're trying to accommodate, find out what the root cause is, you're going to have a happier organization. And if we're thinking about restaurants, the margins are really tight at a restaurant. But if every time your customers come in, they're happy to be there, they get greeted well, maybe sometimes the server gives them a free drink, like whatever it is. Maybe, I don't know where servers go when you need them, but for some reason they show up after your first 2 minutes of getting your food and your mouth is full, and they're like, how's everything? And you're like, oh, it's okay. But then they disappear. They always seem to disappear. I don't know what's going on. But if you can improve that customer service and have proper coverage, employees have to go to the bathroom. Employees have to sneak out to have a smoke. If they are happy to cover each other, hey, Holly, I'm going out back because I got to have a smoke. It's going to be 5 minutes. Can you watch my table number 36? The gentleman with the big spaghetti plate, he might need more cheese. He really enjoys his cheese. So maybe go check on him once while I'm out. That would be fantastic. And Holly's like, no problem. So Holly runs over there in a couple minutes and says, hey, you want more cheese? I mean, like, oh, how happy is that customer? Not only did his server treat him well, but the other server, Holly, who was working in the next section, treated him well also. Now, I know servers, wait staff, oh my God, you guys are amazing. You run all day. I could never do that. I am not a server. And as long as a server doesn't totally bugger up my order or, just make a monumental mistake, you're getting a tip. You're still getting a tip from me. Right? Now, imagine if I was super happy and every time I walked in, the greeter's like, "Hey, Ian, welcome back. Did you want that same table you guys sat at the other day?" I'm like, yeah, that was a nice one. Oh my God. I mean, as soon as someone walks into your restaurant, right, they need to. That's why that greeter position is so important. And I've walked into some restaurants where there's a front desk and it says, "Please wait to be seated," but there's nobody there. Oh my God, where's the person? Why are they helping in the kitchen? Why are they taking out the garbage? Why are they helping to clear tables? Greeting your customers and getting them seated is their job, in my opinion. If you can get happy customers to their seat as fast as possible and get their order into the kitchen as soon as possible, that's going to make customers happy. That's what's going to make me happy as a customer. I know what I want as a customer. So why isn't the restaurant doing that? They're just cutting corners. It's expensive to have someone just standing up at front. And it's an extra wage, right? So I understand both sides of this situation. But I just got a text message from my mother-in-law who lives in the house with us. There's an Amazon order going to be dropped off today, and she's heading to a nap now. So I'm on Amazon order drop watch. I mean, it's already 1:11, so I'll stay on for a little bit longer here. Ask your questions. There's still time. I can answer them. I'll double check to make sure no questions showed up and they're not disappearing in my system somehow. So that's good. No, I'm not missing anything. So if you're watching this and the background sound is too loud, maybe I'm too loud, maybe you can hear my breathing. I am ordering one of those pop noise reducers that's going to go on my mic. So hopefully you won't hear me just breathing through my whole live event. I'm sorry. I'm a big man. I kind of breathe heavy. So I got tomorrow we're going to be talking about Indigenous Relations, Indigenous EDI, everything Indigenous. So you can ask your questions about that. I facilitate the KAIROS Blanket Exercise, me and my wife. And we do this for groups of 20 to 50 people. It's usually for organizations. We've done this for a tree planting company, Shell Canada, the University of Alberta a few times. I can't remember all the organizations. There's been so many over the last about 6 years. Me and my wife have been facilitating that. KAIROS Blanket Exercise is basically a participatory history lesson. You are involved. You are part of the history as I go through it, and we cover all the major events that have happened to and with Indigenous people over the last 500 years. So it can be very powerful. It's an amazing way to start your Indigenous allyship journey. So I'll talk more about that tomorrow. And I also do little workshops about EDI and the UN DRIP and the TRC 94 calls to action. I especially center on number 92, which is for business. Since I'm in the business world, my clients are normally businesses. But sometimes I got some nonprofits that want some Indigenous support. And let's see what else we got coming up. I had made a post. Maybe I should just pull up my own note. Yeah, so Tuesdays is going to be the Indigenous allyship topic. Wednesday, I'm going to talk about gigs and side hustles. I talk about this because I kind of do gigs and side hustles, but at the same time, I'm in HR and I see people struggling. They're getting their second job, their third job, and multiple gigs. And I want to talk about that. And we can talk about what gigs are good, what gigs are bad, how you should work your gigs, whatever. We can have a chat around that sort of thing. That sort of stuff really excites me. So yeah, let's talk about that on Wednesday. Thursdays, I'm going to call it Career Club. This is the online career club, and it's going to be every Thursday. I volunteer at my local community league here in Edmonton, and every third Thursday of the month, I have an in-person career club where we talk about job hunting, we talk about resumes, we talk about cover letters, we talk about how to advance your career. We do talk about the gigs and side hustles too at the same time. But it's a way for me, like I deal a lot business to business type stuff. This for me is an HR person. It's my business, it's my B2C, it's my business to customer type stuff. And it allows me to help people try to get jobs. And I feel really good about that. And so come out for that if you got questions about your job hunt. And Friday, oh yeah, Fridays. Fun and games. I'm a board gamer. I'm not a gamer. I do play some. I do play like Skyrim and Civilization on my computer. But I really enjoy board games. I love to get together with, me and my wife will get together with 2 or 4 of our friends, other couples, and we'll play some board games. And even when I was growing up, when I was a teenager, and still now, I like to play Magic the Gathering, and I like to play Dungeons and Dragons. For a lot of years, I was the dungeon master, so I ran the dungeon. And with Magic the Gathering, I was never really that good. A good friend of mine, he's amazing, and he uses me as a tester because he knows I'm better than the average Joe, and he knows my decks. He knows how they operate. He knows how quickly I can get something out. I'd mentioned in a post about my favorite green Magic the Gathering deck, and my first 3 turns that would be perfect to get out like the biggest monster. So he knows how quick this deck can be when I got a good hand. So he likes to test his new decks on that, and that's always fun, and it's always exciting just to get the cards and stuff like that. So I don't know, maybe I'll sell my copy of my Jester's cap. I think it was worth $50, but you know what he did? I took it out of the plastic and I threw it in a deck. So I think I might have ruined it. So it's probably not worth $50 anymore. But I like to talk about games. The hardest game I ever played. Oh my god. Dungeon Lords. It's a board game. It's very hard. It's a lot of different steps to play the game. But it's really fun once you get it going. And, maybe we'll talk about simple games like Monopoly. Um, or we'll just talk about fun stuff. Doesn't have to be games. Like it's Friday. I just want to talk about fun stuff. I want to have a good time on Fridays. So that's what's coming up. Those are draft, preliminary topics. Naturally, if someone jumps on and asks a question about something, I'm going to talk about that. I'm going to change the topic because I can. It's my live stream. Live streamer's prerogative, as Captain Picard might say from Star Trek. Maybe we'll talk about movies. Maybe we'll talk about good shows. Maybe we'll talk about bad shows. Maybe we'll talk about good books. We could talk about books. I got lots of books. I read a lot of sales and marketing books. I read a lot of business building books. Maybe we could talk about How to Win Friends and Influence People by Carnegie, right? Like it's open. We could talk about a lot of stuff on Friday. Get to know each other. Maybe you get to know me too well. But yeah, so that's gonna happen. Now I'm gonna delete the stuff that I've spoken about. So we don't want to talk about that next week. Yeah, so if you're watching this and you've got some issues, you want a little more information, I'm no longer online, what I can do is I can throw up this QR code here. This is my small ebook, Stop Staff Drama Fast. And this is kind of like emergency. You got some staff issues where people are fighting, whatnot. Scan this barcode here and check it out. See if this helps. So maybe you don't need an expensive fix. Maybe you don't need to spend hundreds or thousands of dollars on an HR person or an HR consultant. Maybe you just need them extra little skills to help you manage your people. And I would say if you're an owner or manager, you should be reading people skill type books and learning as much as possible. You want to be the best manager you possibly can. And I can't stress enough. Once you're a manager, it's a different role. And you need to learn different things. And if you want to advance your management career, you have to be the rock star manager. And that may mean having to do the hard jobs. I've fired people. I've had to give people warnings. I've had to basically retrain some people because somehow they didn't get it the first time. And it's just surprising how quickly someone may forget how to do their job. They need to be constantly reminded. They need to be constantly getting training. You need to involve them with the process and to see if you can find improvements, right? They need to be involved in the organization. They can't just sit there and be left to do their job. Because that person that is hired to do a job and you never talk to them again are going to quit, or they're going to not care, and they're just going to be sitting there not doing work, quiet quitting. I just watched the movie Office Space the other day, and I remember that guy. He goes to the hypnotist, and he doesn't bring him out of the trance, and so he's left in this trance, and he's just like, I don't care. He's not doing any work. He's actually being disruptive, but he's still not getting fired. In fact, the consultants they brought in, they give him a promotion. So it's almost like a fail-up situation there, when all they needed to just not manage him quite as much. When you got 8 managers, 8 people you report to, that's insane. So get your structure right. That's all I can say about that. Stop staff drama fast. Now, this can help you in 5 days if you work on this. And it's kind of rinse and repeat situation. Each time you come up with a certain issue, you may use this method to help you stop that drama and get your team working back together. So, I think I'm going to let you go. Here's this. Leaders win when the team wins. This is a fun design I have on the TeePublic store. So you can get this on a hat, a coffee mug, a sticker, a tapestry. They have workout shorts now, things like that. But if your team is winning and you're creating new leaders, then you have the right to call yourself a leader. A leader creates leaders. So go ahead, go check out this design on my TeePublic store. Maybe buy a t-shirt. That's really great. That'll really help me. But if you're watching this after, go ahead, leave a question in the comments, and I will try to make sure I catch the comment, and I'll address the question in the next live. I might even just write a post about it to give you extra information, and then you can see it ahead of time. That's if you're on LinkedIn. Now, I am primarily on LinkedIn. I got the biggest followers there. I spend most of my time on LinkedIn. That's where I'm posting most of the time, on LinkedIn. So you're going to want to follow me on LinkedIn. Just search for my name. How do I get my up on there? I have no idea. Give me a moment. I'll remove this. And I'll remove this one. There. Ian Hopfy. I should be the only Ian Hopfy on LinkedIn. There is another Ian Hopfy, but he's older and he used to work for a feed company. That's not me. So you'll see my company logo, or you'll see my beautiful face. You can also search hashtag Ian the HR Pro, which is down here also. And go ahead, give me a connection request, and we'll connect, and you can talk to me, ask me questions behind the scenes. Still no chatty chat. That's fine. This is my first live. Maybe tomorrow we'll get one viewer, and it'll be amazing. But okay, 1:29 p.m. here in Edmonton. It is getting hot. It's starting to get hot. I gotta put on the air conditioner. I gotta close my blind and sit in the dark for the next few hours as I try to get some work done. Go ahead, message me if you want on LinkedIn, and I'll try to answer your questions. Okay. See you tomorrow. Bye.